lover. Hal Holbrook, the target.
I'm not sure that I can kill somebody.
You already have.
Just when you think you've solved it, you're dead wrong. Murder by Natural Causes at 9, 8 Central on the CBS Tuesday Night Movie.
Thursday.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Shirley sizzles in a dazzling celebration of vaudeville, athletics, and dancing with gymnast Kurt Thomas and special guest star Dean Martin. Shirley is showbiz in motion, and every little movement counts. Shirley MacLaine, Thursday at 10, 9 Central and Mountain.
Walter Cronkite. There's only one place you can find this anchorman, this editor, and his team. Cronkite and Company, only on the CBS Evening News.
Think you
Pay off. We'd work something out.
It's a great Monday night starting at 8, 7 Central.
This is CBS.
We all grew up on the carpet.
I'm Howard Schnellenberger. I'm one of the few guys around here that didn't grow up on MacArthur's milk.
I'm Beverly McFarland. Since the early 60s immigration of Latins to South Florida and to places like Little Havana, there has been a profound effect on the economy of the Gold Coast. Miami has become a financial mecca for South American trade and commerce, bringing big dollars into our community. With the latest influx of refugees, questions are surfacing. Will these people continue to contribute to our bustling economy or strain social services and the housing market to the breaking point? We'll show you in a special report starting Monday night at 11.
Jack Nicholson stars in 5 Easy Pieces tonight. News Weekend, Update 4. Now here's Bob Mayer.
Good evening. With a curfew now in effect, the only persons on the streets of Miami's riot-torn areas are police, National Guardsmen, and numerous snipers, looters, and torchmen setting dozens of fires that are now burning out of control. Some persons in the affected areas have had enough, and as C.T. Taylor reports, they are beginning to arm themselves to protect their lives and property.
As dusk fell and the 8 p.m. curfew went into effect, new fires began to erupt all over the Northside Shopping Center area along Northwest 27th Avenue between 62nd and 79th Streets. Several stores were looted minutes before they were set afire. Police just stood by. Looters are seen here going in and out of the Picks shoe store carrying arms full of shoes. Earl's Supermarket at Northwest 79th Street and 22nd Avenue was broken in two and completely looted. Rioters boldly walked inside the building, taking foodstuffs, all they could carry. Some came back for seconds. Police were able to apprehend some of the looters. Police ordered the intruders to lie face down. They were handcuffed and later taken to jail. Several light industry buildings were set afire. Flames and smoke could be seen for miles away. The tensions in the area prompted some white residents to arm themselves, brandishing their rifles and pistols for all passers-by to see.
I've got a little boy. I'm going to protect him. I'm going to protect my property. I never did anything to them people. They don't have no right coming in here and doing something to me.
I feel that the black people have an absolute feeling, and they should feel as the way they do. But why? As we feel as we do. We are working people who work around these black people all day long, and we feel for them. Why are they putting this on us?
I've got my kids back there, and nobody's coming through for my kids.
C.T. Taylor, Channel 4 News, Northwest Dade County.
Former UN Ambassador Andrew Young is in South Florida tonight, adding his voice to the pleas from black leaders for calm in this community. At this moment, reporter Mary Nissensen is with Young at the NAACP meeting. Here is her live-eye report.
Bob, I'm here at NAACP headquarters with both Mayor FERRE and former Ambassador Andrew Young. Ambassador Andrew Young, perhaps you could tell us, what do you hope your visit here will accomplish?
Well, just being with my friends who right now are in a time of real crisis. And a crisis can be a tragedy, but it can also be an opportunity. And I hope we can make this an opportunity for Miami to deal with many of its problems. But first, I think the violence has to stop, And people have to realize that the hurt really is hurting the very neighborhoods in which they will live. You know, I've been in a lot of these, and Watts still bears the scars of 1965. Washington still hasn't recovered from 1968. The more damage done, the more harm it does the black community particularly.
There are some people who are frightened that once violence like this begins, there's just no way of stopping it. Do you feel confident you can do something here?
Well, I think that violence proves itself to be non-productive. I mean, after a while, people express their rage, and once that rage is gone, they realize we can't survive together violently, and that we have to work together. And I think it's in the aftermath of the crisis, and I hope that the crisis is past, that constructive forces throughout the community might come together and see what can be done to undo the fact that many people in the Miami area felt that the system had betrayed black people. It no longer served the needs of black people. It didn't respond to the interests of Haitians or school superintendents or people on the street being arrested by law enforcement officers. The political grievances, the jury system, the housing, the jobs, the whole system, I think, has to be, in a sense, put on trial by those of us who want to see Miami serve all of its citizens, and I think that's why we're here.
One way that Miami will be put on trial, members of the grassroots organizations in the community have put together a list of demands, Bob. Now, among them, there are 11, and this list is tentative at this time, but let me highlight some of the key demands. First and foremost, the removal of Janet Reno and the investigation of her office. Second, a more equitable manner of jury selection. Third, recruitment and promotion of more black policemen. And finally, amnesty for demonstrators. That would include demonstrators involved in looting, but not those who injured or killed any people. Mayor FERRE, how would you respond to those demands?
Well, there are actually 11 demands, and I would say the 11, 9 are reasonable, and I think we should deal with them, and I think they're very well thought out, and I think they're important. You know, a very wise man said several thousand years ago that a just society is one in which those that are not affected are as concerned as those affected. And what we really have to do in this community, those who think they're not affected, really have to become involved. And that's really why I think Ambassador Young has put it very well. We welcome him into this community for that very reason, that I think we need to get the whole community together to realize that we do have a critical situation here.
Let me ask you one question. You've said 9 of the 11 are reasonable. Which 2 would you single out?
Well, I think the question of Janet Reno's resignation, I happen to think that Janet Reno is an honorable, dedicated public servant. However, I think there's some serious questions about her, and I think what she should do is recuse herself for the next 2 weeks, because if it saves one life, then it's worth it.
When you say recuse, in other words, take a leave of absence, step down for a while.
And there's a difference between taking a leave like that and resigning. I don't think that she should resign. That would be an admission of something which she denies, and I happen to agree with her. But I think that's something that we need to get some investigative forces in here, including the FBI, to go over the record and come back with a recommendation.
Bob, neither of these gentlemen believe that this will be a cure-all necessarily, but they hope that this is a beginning of some positive steps to quell the troubled waters in Miami's black community. Reporting live, back to you, Bob.
Thank you, Mary. Authorities have extended now the area in which a curfew is in effect, with the new northern boundary being Northwest 103rd Street. Within the areas marked, no movement is allowed until after 6 tomorrow morning. In the Northwest area, the curfew is in effect from 103rd Street south all the way to the Miami River, with Northwest 37th Avenue, the western border, and I-95, the eastern border. The curfew is also being enforced in the Coconut Grove area between Dixie Highway in the Bay and Lejeune Road and Southwest 27th Avenue. Again, no movement will be allowed in this area. Authorities have set up an escort arrangement for serious emergencies. And late tonight, Dade County Police announced that still another area, the entire city of Opelika, has been placed under curfew. The conditions of the curfew area are the same as those that are in effect in the other areas. The boundaries of the Opelika curfew are as follows: 151st Street on the north and 47th Avenue on the west, 17th Avenue on the east, and then a step-like effect along 135th Street west to 27th Avenue, then south to 127th Street, west again on 127th to 35th Avenue, south once again to 119th Street, and then west to 47th Avenue. If you have a serious medical emergency inside a curfew area, you can call 638-6721 for an escort. Again, this number should be used only for medical emergencies. Miami Police Chief Kenneth Harms is holding a press conference at this hour to brief the public on what's happening. Reporter Bob Jackson is standing by now at police headquarters with a live-eye report. We'll have that report in just a few moments, I'm told. Governor Graham made a statewide television appearance this afternoon saying there would be a further probe into the MacDuffie killing, but urging blacks and whites to calm down and restore order.
And forces from the Florida Game and Freshwater Fish Commission. In addition, local police officers from nearby jurisdictions are on call as needed. I ask my fellow Dade Countyans to do your part to stop the violence and hatred between black and white Floridians. Obey the curfew tonight, which begins at 8 o'clock. Please call your friends and ask them to do likewise. Black Americans, as well as white Americans, have worked long and hard since the days of the first civil rights marches to secure a fair portion of the American dream for all our citizens. I am proud to count myself as one who has participated in that effort. We have come too far, worked too hard to see that everything is lost in one more night of needless violence and rage.
The further investigation into the MacDuffie incident that the governor made reference to will be on a federal level, and we'll have more on that later in this broadcast. I'm told now we have that live-eye report on the press conference of Miami Police Chief Kenneth Harms. Here's Bob Jackson with a live-eye report.
Bob, we are picking up City of Miami Police Chief Kenneth Harms at this moment in a news conference which started, just moments ago. Chief Harms has basically been going over what has transpired today and what course of action he will be taking from right here. We will now join Chief Harms in his press conference.
We work in the downtown business community to use I-95 southbound from the northwest sections to the downtown area or Biscayne Boulevard. In the south, again, South Dixie can be used, but there are several stretches of South Dixie that traffic will be diverted and rerouted. We would ask people to leave a little earlier for work in the morning so that we won't get jammed up too heavily on either South Dixie or on 95. And we're going to try to develop a plan for staggered release of businesses tomorrow afternoon so that we can relieve the burden northbound on 95 and southbound on South Dixie Highway. We made a couple of releases to our officers this evening. Let me read these over, and it'll give you a little better perspective for the kind of information that we're disseminating to our officers. At about 7:50 p.m., this was read to the officers in the field. The curfew is in effect as of 8 p.m. Locations of the curfew passed on to the district supervisors for application. Zone cars to announce the curfew and announce that persons in violation will be subject to arrest. What we're doing essentially is providing as many warnings as we can reasonably provide under the circumstances. There are no indiscriminate application of the curfew provisions at this time. As we continue to review the situation, we do have the option through the Director of Public Safety with the county of extending the curfew into other areas as necessary. Second item that we released to them at 9:13 p.m., National Guard expected to be deployed in force shortly to assist in traffic and building security control. Strategic intersections throughout the city are being identified for initial on-site security assignments for the National Guard and the Miami Police Department. We will attempt to methodically expand and cover hotspots on a 24-hour basis until we've gained control over the situation. Questions?
Sir, you said, speak about gaining control over the situation. As it is at this hour, and the information you have been given, do you have control over the entire area or not?
No, in some sections of Miami we do not. We're not able to respond to some fires depending on the area. We've sent fire units in accompanied by police officers, and they've had to withdraw because of sniper fire and other acts of violence directed to them.
It appeared, Chief, that areas of Coconut Grove that were pretty hot last night had calmed down.
report have you had from the Douglas Road and Grand Avenue area?
Still experiencing problems, particularly at that location, Grand and Douglas.
What kind?
Mike, what are we experiencing there? Still a continued propensity to looting?
Grand and Douglas, the last several hours, has subsided considerably in Coconut, even though upwards right up to the last few hours we were having problems there. But just recently, we did have an indication that it's considerably less.
Sir, how do you compare tonight, thus far, to what type of activity you had last night by this time?
It's more. It's less in terms of the personal acts of violence directed from one person to another, but the fires have increased considerably, as has the property crimes, particularly looting situations. So I'd say that the personal violence is down and the looting and fires are up.
Chief Holmes, do you have any feeling that the situation is beginning to subside a little bit? Any indication whatsoever that things are calming down in any part of the city at all?
Southwest section, Coconut Grove, somewhat. Northwest sections, no, not at this time. We anticipate a downward spiral in activity as we're able to deploy guardsmen and as their numbers increase. And we will, of course, be working with them in a very close relationship to provide security to property and perimeter control.
Chief, where are the highway patrolmen?
The highway patrolmen are predominantly in the area of 79th Street and 27th Avenue and are being deployed by the Public Safety Department. The Public Safety Director, as you're probably aware, last night at approximately 10 p.m. was named as coordinator of local law enforcement efforts by the governor. So he, in fact, is responsible for deployment of the highway patrol, and I think there's some game officers as well. Yes, sir.
Exactly what the volunteer citizen is doing. Who are they?
There was a major meeting at the Community Relations Board of concerned citizens and public officials at 3 o'clock this afternoon. As a result of that meeting, a number of volunteers, citizen volunteers, who felt that they could help control the situation, made a decision to move throughout the communities and try to quell the violence and property crimes that are occurring. That's in fact what they're doing. Who are they? Concerned citizens and community leaders.
What effect, if any, have they had?
We think they've had a positive effect in some areas, particularly along 62nd Street, west of Northwest 7th Avenue over towards 17th Avenue. We've seen a very noticeable improvement within that area. As far as the other areas are concerned, it's very difficult to measure their effectiveness at this time. We're very pleased that they've taken an interest in it. They've certainly subjected themselves to the potential threat of personal violence being directed to them.
Bob, what Harms is saying basically is that
Any further questions?
the looting and the violence is still going on here, and he's urging people not to go out unless they have to. And if they have to go to work in some of the bordering areas, he is asking them to use caution and contact their supervisors to see if they will in fact be working tomorrow. This is Bob Jackson live at the City of Miami Police Department. We will have more as it happens. Back to you, Bob.
Thank you, Robert. The person most affected by the cause of Miami's riots, Arthur MacDuffie's mother, came to our studio earlier tonight and made an emotional plea for an end to the violence.
Well, I feel very bad about what's happening. I think they should cut it out now. And well, let's get together and try to talk it over those leaders and the state peoples, you know, the head peoples, that can do something about what they are rioting about. Because this ain't gonna solve the problem. And furthermore, I think they should cut it out because too many people getting killed up, and I don't believe in that. I don't believe in killing up nobody. But they're going too far with it, and I ask these people and beg them with tears in my eyes to quit this. To quit this. And look to God. That's who they need to look to. Because if it's been more God in them, this wouldn't even happen. It wouldn't happen. They don't have no God in them to guide them and to guide them from doing just terrible things. They just need to look to God. That's what I would like to say to the community people that are doing this in the community. Quit that. Quit that. Cut it out. It ain't no good. It ain't no good. And they have did enough to stir up the people and let them know what they mean. It's time to stop. It's time to stop. They're killing up people. They got a bunch of children, a lot of children. Fathers got children to look out for. And they just need to cut it out.
Also with us live earlier tonight on Update 3 of News Weekend was Miami Dolphin All-Pro Larry Little. He, too, made an impassioned plea for people to stay home and stay out of trouble.
Being a Miami native, I'm very concerned about what's going on in our area right now. And I can say I'm just as disappointed and frustrated as everybody else about what happened in Tampa yesterday. But I don't think the way to deal with this is by going out and rioting and burning and stealing and killing people and killing ourselves the way we are. Arthur MacDuffie was a friend of mine. At one time, he was my next-door neighbor. So it touched me a great deal because I knew him. He was a very fine person. And to see this happen, I know how the people feel. But we've got to get out of the street. We've got to obey the laws. We've got to obey the curfews. We've got to go home. Parents, let's keep your children home. And children, let's try to keep our parents home, too.
I'll be back with more after this.
I got this last-minute call to work the 7 a.m. flight, and wouldn't you know it, everything went wrong. I was even out of my antiperspirant. But am I worried? Because I use Mitchum Roll-On. Mitchum is so effective, I could even skip a day. I mean, you may never have to, but it's nice to know Mitchum's so effective.
Roll-on stick or cream. Mitchum is so effective, you can even skip a day.
Potatoes are just potatoes, a tuna is just a fish, and a sandwich is a poor thing, till the mayonnaise makes it rich.
When it's the mayonnaise that makes it, make it Kraft. When it's the mayonnaise that makes it, make it Kraft. At Kraft we're making mayonnaise that's real and smooth and rich. At Kraft with every egg we break, we toast your favorite dish. When it's the mayonnaise that makes it, make it Kraft.
I told you I don't want you living with roaches. Now I'm going to show you how to kill roaches where you don't want to spray, like around food and dishes. Get yourself decon roach traps. No poisons and no spraying. Roaches get trapped inside and wham, they're dead. When the trap's filled, throw it out. Power, but no poison. I think they're beautiful, especially since your picture's on the box. Decon roach traps, more power to you.
Hi, honey.
Hey, where are the kids?
Spending the night at Mother's.
We're alone?
Open up and taste the moment. This time, the best is just what you deserve.
It's time for Erlanger. One look, one sip, one taste will tell you this beer is a classic.
When you want to fill your life up to the very brim.
Here's to my mother-in-law.
Come and taste the moment, Erlanger.
The riot-related death toll has climbed to 15 confirmed deaths. At least 165 persons have been injured, among them 4 City of Miami police officers, all 4 reported to be in good condition. We have more now on the riot casualties from Christopher Peak at Jackson Memorial Hospital.
Jackson Memorial Hospital is in the unique position of not only having the major emergency room in Miami, but it is also very near the major riot areas. Since yesterday, JMH Emergency Room has seen 110 riot-related injuries, 21 of them since 5 this afternoon. There have been 39 gunshot wounds, and that statistic is the key difference in JMH activity today compared to yesterday.
Well, last night were predominantly beatings, people hit with various objects or stabbed to a smaller extent. Mostly beatings, arms, legs, head, body, chest, etc., with a few stab wounds and a few gunshot wounds. Tonight it's 90-95% gunshot wounds to the extremities. We've seen a couple to the head, a couple to the chest, the abdomen, all over the place. Overwhelmingly gunshot wounds, fewer stabbings, very few beatings. Had a couple of deaths in there. Most of the people are in the operating room or being observed waiting to go to the operating room. We have 5 or 6 active operating rooms going on at the present time.
Other hospitals in the area are open. They're seeing riot-related walk-in injuries, but they're not the scope nor the severity of those coming to JMH. Of the 110 riot-related injuries seen at JMH, 50 have been admitted. Christopher Peak, Channel 4 News.
So far, more than 250 persons have been arrested, most of them in the city of Miami. In addition, 25 juveniles have been taken to Youth Hall. Most of the arrests have come inside the Miami city limits. Charges range from loitering to attempted murder, but most of those arrested are charged with burglary or looting. As a result of the violence, many schools and services in Dade County will be canceled or curtailed tomorrow. All public and parochial schools in the county will be closed, and it appears that virtually every private school has also canceled classes. All campuses of Miami-Dade Community College will be closed tomorrow, but the University of Miami will hold classes, and so will Florida International University. Some businesses in affected areas have changed schedules for their employees, and some courthouse, post office, and public employees will also be affected, but there is no complete list of what will be open and what will be closed. Most employees are advising their workers to call in the morning and check schedules. The Cuban refugee boat lift that had been close to dormant this weekend because of rough seas in the Florida Straits appears to be getting up to full force again. 40 to 50 boats are reported to be waiting just off Key West for a chance to dock. Although this has been one of the quietest weekends in the course of the boat lift, it was also one of the most tragic. Beverly McFarland reports from Key West.
Marine helicopters brought the survivors of yesterday's boat lift tragedy to the Boca Chica Naval Air Station this morning. 3 critically injured, 2 women and a small boy, were taken by ambulance to Florida Keys Memorial Hospital. 14-year-old Ibis Guerrero Hernandez appeared dazed as she told reporters how the 36-foot boat she was jammed onto sank 40 miles north of Mariel Bay. Her mother, father, grandmother, and 2 sisters were among the 14 refugees drowned. The survivors, who spent over an hour in 4 to 7 foot seas after the engine quit and the boat was swamped and sank, were burned by gasoline which spilled into the water. They said they called for help and saw a Cuban patrol boat pass them by.
Everybody was spending. How did they stay afloat? With their dry lifeguards and gas tanks and pieces of wood. All kinds of things.
About how many people had life jackets on already when the boat sank?
About half of them.
Salvador Ojeda, a tow truck driver from Miami who owned the Olo Yumi, said Castro's officials dangerously overloaded the open fishing boat before allowing his 7 relatives on board. 10 bodies were recovered by the Coast Guard rescue effort. 4 others are missing and presumed dead. 38 lived.
These vessels were in a grossly overloaded condition. Somehow they got that way. Whoever was responsible for creating them that way should take a great blame for what happened.
The U.S. Coast Guard has asked the Cuban border guard to stop overloaded boats from leaving Mariel Harbor, but has received no response. There are no boats leaving Key West today for Cuba, but 1,000 American boats wait in Mariel Harbor to return here across the unpredictable Florida Straits. Beverly McFarland, Channel 4 News, Key West.
And we will have an abbreviated sports report with John Arminio right after this.
Take time out.
Hey, that's good seafood. Without fancy seafood prices.
Dad, does this cost a lot?
Not at Treacher's.
Come on, gang, you can eat with us.
It is written, my son, that Arthur Treacher's gives you much value for your money.
Where's that written, Pop?
On the menu, my son, on the menu.
Treacher's Seafood Restaurant.
Hurry up, Mabel. We got to get these eggs to the market.
Introducing the 1980 Renault car. It gives you great performance without sacrificing comfort. It has rack and pinion steering and front-wheel drive for great handling, and 4-wheel independent suspension to keep things comfortable inside, even when it's bumpy outside. All with estimated 30-mile-per-gallon economy.
We made it.
Renault car from American Motors.
You're working hard and building up a thirst so mean it just won't quit. But you won't quit either, so you reach for the Thirst Quencher. Pro Strength Thirst Quencher from Wagner with twice the minerals of Gatorade, plus more of the potassium a thirsty body may need. Got a mean thirst that won't quit? Reach for Pro Strength Thirst Quencher from Wagner.